Someone giving you money expects, if I give you $1, I expect, $1.2 or $2 back. So that person is not, we think the person is investing in the business, but most times they're investing in you. Managing just your emotions throughout the journey, enjoying the journey. So don't build just thinking about the destination.
So enjoying the process as well.
The process.
I love that you've mentioned something about inefficiencies, because that's also a struggle I encountered in my business. There's how I started my business, and then I eventually realized that the way my business was going, or the initial model of my business, was not the most sustainable. I couldn't have made it. Now we're on our 4th year, 4 years. And I mean, I'd probably not even have time to sit here or do anything at that space that I was doing my one-on-one coaching, right? And I mean, I did try out, like, for example, other different models like group coaching before I ended up figuring out that I can use like digital courses and products to kind of like make money, right? And like, I remember group coaching failed terribly. And I think that's one of the things, I mean, when we are talking about failures, it's like you do not want to accept that you've tried something and it hasn't worked. And I had a conversation with one of my mentors, and that thing stuck with me. And it's just what you've said right now. He told me, whatever is wrong with your business at that 1 year level or 2 year level, if you scale that business that way, you're scaling inefficiencies. So if my business, it won't fix itself. So if we have a systems and structures problem in year 1, even if we sink more money into the business, we will still have a systems and structures issue. If the business is not profitable right now, we've not found a way to make the numbers work. As we keep growing, we are scaling inefficiencies. And that's so important to have in mind. Now, if I'm a business person, I've come to you and I'm talking to an experienced mentor, okay? And I'm telling you that my business is not profitable. Like, the books are not making sense. And I've made losses maybe 6 months in a row. What would you tell me?
6 months in a row. I think I'll try and answer 2 questions. One is, a lot of people they ignore fixed costs. They look at the variable costs. So an example, I'm going to buy this mug at 1,000 bob. I'll sell it at 1,500. You've set up a shop to sell mugs. So every unit I'm selling, I see that I'm making money. So day 1, day 2, day 3.
You're happy.
But you've forgotten that you are a cost and the premises are a cost. Those are fixed costs. So I think that's one of the big things that a lot of entrepreneurs, big trap, that we forget. I just use the most common fixed costs, but there's normally a bunch of fixed costs that people ignore.
In your pricing.
And pricing is something you can adjust and turn profitable. So I think one of the advices I'd give somebody like that is, look at your fixed costs and how many units of whatever you're selling you need to sell to break even. And then if you think about all the strategies to grow those sales and you've exhausted all of them, that if I was selling 500 mugs and I need 1,000 mugs to actually turn profitable, and you've exhausted all the ideas to grow from 500 to 1,000, I think it's time. Because as you said, nothing is going to change.
Nothing is going to change.
You try all the strategies, nothing is working. Just call it.
And that's like the toughest thing any business person ever has to do. It's really tough.
And it's so that's one. Can you grow the number of units you're selling? The second one is, can you adjust your pricing? So it could take selling 500 mugs or doubling your price to achieve the same thing. If you double your price, will people buy? So if you test that as well and it's not working,
it's time to call it quits. Yeah. I think it's so important for business people to know that numbers don't lie. Yeah. And I feel like that's another thing when it comes to like financial management in a business. Of course, like when you're really like a small micro business, as we said, you're everything for the business. The social media manager, the cleaner, the finance person, the BD person, you're pretty much doing everything. What are some of the mistakes you see people? Because like I'll give you an example, right? Every time I sit coaching a business owner, because my area is finance, we definitely have to look at the numbers, right? Yeah. So we usually look, for me, my model has always been very simple. When I'm coming up with like my profit margin or how to price either a product or a service, I look at three things, right? Can this, whatever the profit margin is, it's supposed to do, your profit is not just supposed to pay you, right? So can it pay the expenses of the business, right? Can it pay me? Yeah. And can it give me like a runway to either expand or grow? So like working capital, right? So when you calculate all of those and you've given maybe, let's say your product or your service a 15% profit margin or a 10% profit margin, it can barely pay you in between those things. So, but when we are calculating these things, most business people will look at you like, so how do you, so where do I get this information? Yeah. And I've seen that a lot of, especially when you're starting out as a micro and small business owner or a startup, we don't pay attention to numbers and the finances. Yeah. So when someone is talking to you about a P&L, you're like, you've run a business for 1 year without ever doing a P&L. Yeah. And everything has been okay though. Yeah. So in your experience, have you made like financial management mistakes that you would wish that if you knew what you know now earlier, what would you have done differently? For me, it's the P&L. I'm the P&L people. Okay. Like the first 2 years of my business, it was just like, as long as I'm not broke,
it's okay. There's money coming in.
There's money coming in. It's okay. The day I sat and did an actual profit and loss statement, and I realized I'm barely breaking even. Yeah. So how have I even been surviving? So how have you been dealing with like financial management? Number one, I'd like to hear, did you make mistakes like me? Or did you just enter into it and be like, we got this, we are smart people?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake I've made around that is delegating compliance. Ooh. Yeah, so the sense for it's a small business, and as you grow, you have an accountant or this person who you've hired, even if it's part-time, that they look at your finances, they file your NHIF, SSF, VAT, all those things. So I think over-delegating that is tricky. It's okay to delegate, but you need to be on top of it.
Be aware of what's happening.
Be aware. Did I actually file my taxes and all that? Because it can really come back to bite you. I'd say that's been the biggest one. But in terms of now daily running, and the biggest lesson for me has been, they say you can't improve what you don't measure. So there's no way you can expect your business to grow if I don't know if I sold 10,000 bob last month. How am I going to aim for 15,000 bob this month? So it's very important to measure. Create a day in the week. At least I'd recommend 1 day in a week.
You sit with your books.
Yes. Look at your numbers in the week. Assess. And then as you start the next week, you even have a new target. You see what you can improve. And the business can only grow as fast as how you reevaluate it. Yeah. If you look at your numbers daily, that means you can grow 1% daily.
Oh, that's amazing.
And you know the power of compounding.
Exactly.
If you look at your numbers monthly,
then you can only grow 1%.
Only grow at that rate.
Yeah.
So if I think, and you just start small. Today I sold 5 mugs. Tomorrow, what can I do to sell 6 or 7? You'll do something different.
You'll do something differently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if I'm just sell today, tomorrow I sell 3, 4, I don't know what's going on. It's very hard to improve.
Yeah. I think another thing in finance management in the business that I learned maybe 3 years in was setting income goals, just as you've spoken about. I think we are also caught up in survival in the sense of, have I made money? Have I paid bills? That we don't You can even set goals around cost reduction, but we don't set goals around income, or rather the revenue target that you're working with.
Yes.
Because there's a coach I worked with when I now started taking my business seriously. That time when now I did the first P&L and I was like, this is embarrassing for a finance coach. Really, it's bad, right? And she took me through a process of setting income goals. She's like, okay, if I want to make 50,000 shillings every month as a coach, for example, what are the 3 different or 4 different ways I can do that? And that really made me think about even my pricing and my offers, right? Because you see, if I have a product that I sell for 500 shillings and my target is 50,000, I'm probably looking at selling, is it 100 or 1,000 units?
So you need to know that.
So I need to break down. So what do this 1,000 units in a month look like in a week?
Yes.
And can I actually sell that much every week? And what would it take for me? What amount of marketing? How often should I show up on social media for me to sell 50 units every week or 100 units every week? And why that even changed my pricing? That's when I invested in some things. And I'm about to ask you, what are some of the personal investments you've made, like that you think have made you like a seasoned entrepreneur, right? Because like for me, I did invest in something that is not necessarily related to like finances, but like paying for like public speaking classes, paying to get someone to help me with my personal brand, understanding, as you said, the power of storytelling. That's a whole podcast for another day, especially when it comes to business, right? Why? Because I realized for me to price my services at like 5,000 per unit instead of 500 per unit, there's a level of investments I must make in myself as a business owner, a level of like branding and imaging that I need and, you know, to do for my business, for my clients to feel it's worth it paying 5,000. So you see, with 5,000 and my target is still 50, it's down to, you know, maybe 10 units per month. So instead of targeting 50 clients every month at 500 bob per unit, now I can charge 5,000 and target 10. And that's very easy. That's like, I just need 2 clients per week. You know? And I realized that for us, I think what you've said, you cannot improve what you don't measure. So it's so powerful to understand like financial management. But back to what I wanted to ask you, obviously for us to do all of these things, pricing well, getting the clients, etc. As a business person, personally as Tesh, what are some investments you've made in yourself that you feel have also contributed to making you a seasoned business person, but also to kind of like be at a level where you're viewed as a prime or as a premium service, right? Or a business person that someone would want to engage and work with. I talked to someone the other day who told me traveling, for instance, is an investment she's made in herself. Oh, you're also those people. Let me not preempt. Tell us, what are some of the investments you've made in your own self that make you an amazing entrepreneur?
So I spend time exposing myself. And how do I do that? So one you've mentioned is traveling. So that just gives you access to a whole new world of things and people, perspective that you can use to improve yourself and your business. Because you can't also innovate or build without exposure. It's not possible to innovate. Because innovation is all around about putting observations, even from different disciplines, together to form something new. It could be innovating even a pricing model, but you can't innovate a pricing model like out of thin air. Sometimes you can do something that looks very creative in your business, yet you copied it from a very different sector. I like the way airlines do upselling, for example.
I know.
You book a ticket and then you're like, okay, to reserve a specific seat, aisle seat, you pay.
Add this much.
Add this much. All those things are things you can copy from different industries, implement in your business, and differentiate yourself from your competitors.
And travel helps with that.
Something I keep asking myself, and I see banks do this nowadays, is why don't insurance companies charge monthly? I feel like insurance penetration, I'm not an actuarial, so I'm very naive to this, but that's one of the business ideas I'm always thinking. Why can't just somebody sell me insurance for me to pay monthly
Instead of annually.
Because how many people can afford
the lump
100,
sum.
200K to pay at
Very
once?
few.
I feel like so many people are uninsured just because of that barrier, right?
Yeah.
So, and such business model innovation is from exposing yourself. The other way to expose yourself is reading podcasts.
And I know you have one of those on Chapter.
Yeah. So we just launched a new podcast. And the idea is that expose people to how other people started.
Yeah.
And because sometimes you're thinking, how do I get started on a business? And when you hear somebody else's story, you realize you have the same skills.
Yeah. You just don't have the inspiration or an example of someone who's been able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So spend time talking to people. If you're looking to be an entrepreneur, spend time with entrepreneurs. If you're looking to be a guru in a certain space, if I want to be a coach, I spend more time with Susan. I don't have to start everything from zero.
Yeah.
I have the opportunity to learn from them, and it gives me a leg up.
Yeah, a leg up. That's amazing. Now, Tesh, you have, as again, one of the things I really admire about you is not just your business acumen and your ability to, let's say, like pick up on opportunities and capitalize on them. I think it's also your ability to think global, to think out of Kenya. And because of that, I've seen you build businesses and even expand into other regions. Yeah. I would really like to hear from someone who's done it. Here, in fact, I should have notes because I need to learn how to do it. Yeah. Expanding into other regions. It's something that sounds very daunting. Yeah. You were talking to me just, a few moments ago about it and telling me, you're sleeping on this and you need to do this and you need to do ads. Yeah. You need, I've already learned so much from you in just the few minutes we spoke earlier today about expanding into different markets. Yeah. What has your experience been with operating or building a business that's probably homegrown and taking it out into Rwanda, South Africa, Nigeria? What does it take, or what do you think it takes to expand into other regions and into other markets? I mean, I don't just mean even out of the country, although I'm there, I'd like to know. Yeah. But like I'm thinking, if I have a business in Nairobi, right? Yeah. And I want to have stalls or branches in like Eldoret and Mombasa, what does it take to really expand out of your familiar region and into other regions? And mostly the coordination of running Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, or Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria. Yeah. What does it take?
Yeah. So I don't think you'll be expecting the answer I say, but
please don't break my heart.
No, I think it just takes courage.
Courage.
Yeah. Because anyone who builds a Pan-African business, a global business, they're not different than you. They just woke up one day and ask themselves that question, like, how big can this get? People need what I'm offering in Kenya. Do they need it in Uganda? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, then why not? So that's it.
I'm just like, I'm waiting. I'm like, courage?
You just need courage. And then obviously you find the resources to expand.
Sure, yeah.
Make sure, we talked about it earlier, make sure you're profitable or at least you're close to profitability in the market where you're operating. So the business model works. You just need to replicate it.
It's better work in Nairobi before you go elsewhere.
Don't go to Nakuru if Nairobi is not working. Unless it's not working because you're in Nairobi.
Because of the location.
Because of the location. Sometimes that happens. Maybe there's very high competition. A business idea could be, this is in Nairobi, it's not in Nakuru. Why don't I launch this in Nakuru?
Yeah.
That's a strategy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could be policy regulation. Maybe you run a border courier service. Borders are banned from CBD, Yeah,
then
so in another city, maybe in Kampala,
no one cares. Exactly.
So that's the mindset. So courage, super important. And then the second one, very, very key, is team.
Your team.
Yeah, so build capacity. You can't do everything yourself.
Yeah.
So find people wherever you go that you think, so you're going to Kampala, find somebody there who understands the market, understands the context, then use them, work together with them to design a strategy and then test it, grow slowly. That's how you launch a new market and then you replicate. Once you have a recipe,
Yeah.
It's just you do
It's
it again and
easy.
again and
I'm
again.
picking up on a lot of need for networking.
Yeah.
And knowing people like in different regions, in different countries. How have you gone about doing that? Because Tesh, I follow you on social media.
Yeah.
You know everyone everywhere. Like even sometimes I'll see you post a photo with someone, like, no, how did you even know this person? And it's mostly like business engagements and all that.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things before we talk about networking, I've always had a problem with how people also ask for mentorship. I don't believe mentorship should be like, hi, Coach Susan, I would like you to mentor me. Here's my number. I don't.
If I got $1 for every message I received like that,
For
I'd
that,
be very
I
rich.
don't understand. Like,
Yes,
how do you reach out? Please educate us. How do you reach out for mentorship? How do you reach out for networking? Because as we sit here, we are two business owners and we work with business people. And I mean, even getting time to schedule this conversation was weeks coming, right? Now, someone wants to network with Tesh because they think that if they have this network here in Kenya, they can expand their business here. But like, how do you, I feel like we have a problem with understanding how to, let's say, network and seek for mentorship. What do you think is the best way to go around that? Because people in business need that, but I feel we don't know how to like connect with people on that level.
I really like that question. It touches my heart because so many young people reach out for mentorship. And in many times they will ask you stuff that is available online. That's very unfortunate.
Yeah, it's sad.
It's sad, so I think guys should invest in themselves first. So I'll tackle your question in two dimensions. If I need mentorship, you need to ask something that you've really tried to get information on.
Yeah, it's not Googleable.
It's not Googleable. Like this just needs a personal experience. And then you seek the right person for that experience.
Yeah.
If you reach out to me with something truly unique, I can tell this is unique.
This is unique.
Don't reach out and ask me, how do you get investors? Like, just Google. Then the second one around networking, you will find yourself in the right room if you offer value.
Come on.
The question you need to ask yourself is, what value am I giving? Because when you give value, you build something, you build a brand, you build a business. You become valuable. That's why it's called value. And at that point, people will reach out to you. To end up in those rooms where you find other people of value. That's how I end up meeting people. You can't just come from nowhere and have no value.
The
in
random
quotes.
DM. Hi Tesh, how can I network with you over coffee?
Yes.
Are you coming?
Yes.
You're
Exactly.
definitely not coming.
What value are you offering me? Tell me how you're, if you reach out and tell me I offer XYZ, very different conversation. And something that's relevant to me. So be a person of value. And you'll end up networking the right people.
Sure. And I think it's a very brutal truth because someone would very easily take that and interpret it as, but I have nothing. I'm just trying to come up. So you guys don't even want to mentor me unless
if you have nothing, create something.
Thank you. I absolutely, and it's a brutal truth. And that's how because I also get so many requests, so many DMs every day for mentorship. And I really do get that these are upcoming business people. So for everyone watching us today, I hope today we've clarified, especially the aspect of asking for mentorship as a business person, asking for networking opportunities as a business person. As you've said it very clearly, create something, like have some value you're bringing to the table, networking gets easier. Something else I've learned as a business person in terms of also expansion and getting to know other people is also, and especially because I talk a lot, but I'm weirdly introverted. My basic, or rather what I would call like my natural habitat is to be in my house and not to meet people. And
just
not
you and your camera.
Yeah, just me and my camera, because I'm so used to talking to the camera, which is crazy now that I think about it. So people, I think, who struggle with that aspect of, nowadays I have a budget for attending events. Like I hear there's this forum happening here, I go. I don't know anyone,
Yeah.
I'm not a panelist.
Yes.
I'm in the audience.
Yes.
In that setup, I will end up meeting Tesh, or I'll end up over, when we are on a tea break, meet person Y, and we strike a relationship. So I also learned as a business person, if I'm just kind of like, I'm in my house.
Put yourself out there.
Yeah, you need to put yourself out there. You just can't be like running your online business or your business in Kisumu and you don't want to go out and meet people. I've learned it's very, very valuable to do that. Yeah.
Many times your next opportunity is just that
it's pretty much there, and it's now. Can we talk about, just before we leave that aspect of expanding into different markets, what are some of the barriers that people need to be aware of like expanding into these other markets? Like, is there issues to do with like registration of the business, regulation, and whatnot? What are some of the things you would point out that someone needs to be aware of?
Yeah. So I think first of all, culture. I think that's the biggest one. Yeah, you find people value different things in different markets. People's ways of commerce, buying things
Are different.
They're different. People's ways of working. So I found some very interesting things like your employee policies across markets can't be exactly the same. People have different ways of interacting. So culture is the biggest one. Then learn about the policies, engage a lawyer if you're going to set up in a new market. Engage a HR professional.
Yeah, especially if it's out of your country.
Yes. Yeah. Especially if it's out of your so that you understand what are the intricacies around setting up a business in that market. You find some markets, there could be legal things. Some markets, they can't operate without a local director, for example. Yeah, so don't be blind to all those things. There are tax regulations that are different.
In different
Uganda,
regions.
you find a digital tax. Another market, a different kind of tax. So those are the two main ones: culture and regulation compliance.
Okay.
Important.
One last thing. I promise you, I'm letting you go after this. You've probably worked with investors, funding. You've interacted with like debt. On a personal finance level, we usually discourage debt a lot, especially like bad debt. But there are ways as business people we can leverage debt to grow and expand, funding to grow and expand. What would you say are some of like because one of the things I struggle with, especially as I would call myself like a small business owner, is the whole concept of, applying for funding. And of course, because we've just said that a business could pretty much go under on you, whether you funded it with debt or not. It's figuring out what kind of a business is worthy of that particular, let's say, venture, right? So we always encourage like bootstrapping for a while, taking some loans from friends and families for a while before you go to the let's say financial institutions or even like investors, just to ensure that proof of concept is there, right? I've always been like, please, before you take a loan for a business, just the bare minimum, ensure that there's proof of concept, right, for that business. In your experience with dealing with like funding, debt, investors, what would you say are some of the most ignored, pretty much just pros and cons of running a business that is leveraged for that matter?
I think first of all, is choosing the right partner. So I see capital providers. Capital is important, but it's much better if you find smart capital. So capital that understands your business and because they can guide you on how you will use your capital to achieve maximum results. So smart capital would be a big one. The next one is choice of which kind of capital to take at each stage. You mentioned some examples. But for example, don't sell shares in your company to cater for like working capital.
Can you imagine? You've given away ownership for day-to-day running costs.
It shouldn't be that way. So finding the right kind of capital at the right stage is also very important. And then the whole soft element of the person who gives you capital should be a partner.
Not
to you.
just a lender.
Not just a lender.
Yeah.
Especially if you're looking at investors to be part owners of your business, because we mentioned that it's a long road. So just like picking a co-founder, you need to pick a partner who you'll be comfortable having conversations with for years and years and years.
It's like picking a marriage partner.
Yes.
You know?
100%. You'll spend a lot of time with them, board meetings, calls. So choose the right partner.
Yeah. I love that. Choose your business partners, choose your funding partners as if you're choosing like a long-term, partner or a long-term marriage partner. And I think that is so important. I definitely look forward to having more and more conversations with you around the area of funding. But before I let you go, maybe you can tell us what to expect from Chapter going forward, and where, in case someone wants to learn more about Chapter and the business and what they do to access the services that you offer, how do we reach you?
So first of all, Chapter is enabling anybody who's selling online on social media, who should be everybody. If you're running a business and you need to reach and engage your customers better via WhatsApp, for example, SMS, Instagram, that's where a lot of consumers are nowadays. You can leverage our platform to do that. So you can learn more on chapter.co. It's Chapter without an A. So chpter.co. It's the same on Instagram and LinkedIn. You can find us, and we're happy to jump on a call and advice on how you can leverage social media to grow.
Yeah, we are leveraging social media to grow. I love that. Thank you so much for joining me. I've enjoyed our conversation. We could go on and on, but we are busy business people, so we need to wrap it up. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I really hope you have enjoyed our episode today. We've learned so much about thinking about finances, how to expand into different markets, how to think about, whether it's time to leave the business or not. You can let us know what was the most insightful bit about our episode today. Of course, we are going to leave some of the links that we've mentioned in the show notes today. And thank you so much for joining us. And I'll join you on the next episode of the Smarter Tomorrow podcast.